So Melinda, thank you very much for allowing us to do this interview here at the mansion. Tell us a little about yourself, introduce yourself, and let the Miami Springs community know a little bit about who you are.
Well, hello, Miami Springs. This has always been home, really, except when I went away for college. So, Miami Springs will always be home, and it means a lot to me. I grew up here. I grew up within walking distance of the mansion, and I started working here about a year and a half ago, November 2016. Changed careers to come on board and help try to get the mansion, to the next level, quite frankly. And it's been challenging, but I'm enjoying it. And you sounded like you want to know a little bit about me, so I worked in the film and video industry for about 25 years. I've worked for pretty much every network out there, doing a lot of sports television and that kind of thing. I've done my share of movies and commercials, that, it ran the gamut. And I was traveling a lot the last few years, and I really was just kind of ready for a change. I felt like I'd done everything I was going to do in that part of my career, and I heard that my predecessor, Joellen Phillips, was leaving. I've known Joellen for a long time, and I gave her a call and said, is it true? And I had volunteered here for a long time too, and I said I was interested, and she put my name in the hat. So I think they took a little bit of a chance on me. They wanted someone, I believe, that was passionate about the facility. Not so much that it needed to be someone that had executive director experience, because I didn't. I'm learning on the fly. But what they wanted also was someone who could kind of build it up as a business also. And I have to give credit to our sales team. When I started, we had one other individual here, her name was Sharon Bayo, and she was doing the sales side of it. And within a year and a half now, we have 7 part-time people. So I think that's good, steady growth, and very excited about that.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a lot of great things, and obviously getting a lot more exposure, including the recent episode with E-District.go.
Yes.
And I think it was in that episode where you mentioned you're on a mission to make Glenn Curtiss a household name in South Florida. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I sure am. If I had a nickel for every time someone comes through this building and says, I never heard of Glenn Curtiss. How did I never know about this place? I'd be a very wealthy woman. And I think anyone who's been involved with the mansion from the restoration side of it and, trying to build it back up will say the same thing. We get that a lot. So part of when I first came on board, and aside from building up infrastructure and things that needed to be done from a business side, immediately, and I said this in my interview, I want to make Glenn Curtiss a household name and focus on Dade County. Okay, obviously you want it, nationwide, worldwide, why not? But you have to start somewhere, and it's going to take some time, but I think it's very doable in 3 to 5 years, I really do. Being careful with the advertising budgets, we're still growing, so I have to be very careful where the dollars are spent. I've tried a lot of different things, experimented a little bit, but the key, I believe, is getting to the young people and getting a core group of docents to help you. It takes a team. This is not something that one person focused on that mission or a board or a sales team can do. It takes a team, just like anything else. And that goes for the community at large as well. And I feel like there's a buzz around town a little bit. I feel like people are kind of getting excited about it, and they see some changes happening and some good things. Last night I went and spoke to the Coral Gables Museum. I was quite flattered to even be asked, sitting there next to Vizcaya and another longtime preservationist in the area. And, it's a little intimidating when you're still learning the ropes, but it was good. It was well received, and people were excited. They want to hear more about it. Once you know the story of Glenn Curtiss and the story of what the mansion has been through, it's fascinating. People get caught up in what they think is new. Well, it's not new, but we feel like we're sharing something that's new, and The tours that we're doing every Saturday have been fantastic.
Can you tell us a little more? What are these tours that you're doing on Saturdays?
We started a little before Christmas. We started doing a Saturday morning 1-hour historical tour from 10 to 11, and that's where the docents have come in. And at least 2 will come on a Saturday, and we kind of tag team with each other and take people around and tell them the different stories and history. And again, they're always fascinated. You know, there's some great South Florida connections with David Fairchild and Curtiss and Alexander Graham Bell, and, you know, all of this. Many people don't know anything about. And once they hear those stories, they're intrigued.
Well, you've got me intrigued.
And they want more.
And that's exactly where you're leading me. Tell us a little bit more about it.
The kids really love it. I would like to get a kids tour. We've been talking about that. And I try to go to other museums and see what they're up to. And I don't want to say steal their ideas, but it's just like music or anything else. You get inspired by others. You know,
so tell us a little bit more about Glenn Curtiss and Fairchild and some of the other South Florida connections that he had.
Well, when Glenn Curtiss said, okay, so in 1907, he took a motorcycle and he went over 136 miles an hour without brakes in Ormond Beach and became known as the fastest man in the world. And he literally was on every newsreel across the globe and became a bit of a household name at that point. And what happened were people that were working on balloons, dirigibles, I always say that wrong, but anyway, Alexander Graham Bell was one of them, and others came calling. They were interested in his engines. It wasn't that Glenn Curtiss had this fascination with flying at a young age. It wasn't that. He was more scientific and intrigued with fixing things and creating. And so when they came calling, he got involved with a few people, and Alexander Graham Bell was one of them. They needed lighter aircraft, they needed faster aircraft. Alexander Graham Bell was the first one to cross the Atlantic. That was one of his dreams. But these balloons were just huge. So he started something called the AEA, Aeronautical Experimental Association. And he founded it, and Glenn Curtiss was one of those members. And it was just very, very bright minds of the day that got together and worked on this. And they were competing with the Wright brothers and someone in France, whose name I always forget, and, you know, others for first flight. And the Wright brothers, of course, got that patent, and everyone knows who they are. But quite frankly, they were stopping the progression of aviation and started suing Glenn Curtiss and others. And it just, you know, the government finally had to step in and put a stop to these lawsuits. And that's when he became a very wealthy man at the start of World War I.
At the beginning of the story, you said he became the fastest man on Earth.
Right.
But when I had heard that story before, but you said something I had never heard before. The bike had no brakes?
Right.
136 miles an hour?
Bike. I'll get you a picture of it. It's a little top heavy in front. Yeah.
Talk about
you asked me, you know, I forgot, you asked me about the David Fairchild.
Yes.
If you want, I'll go back to
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
Okay, so Alexander Graham Bell's daughter married David Fairchild, and so that's how they originally met. And David Fairchild actually saw Glenn Curtiss one of the first times he flew, and he documented it very eloquently and took photos of it.
The list of things that Curtiss later invented is pretty exhaustive. You know, just any one of those would have made someone famous, and he invented a whole series of them. Do you mind touching on a few of those inventions that he had?
Well, I think the one that is most monumental is the aileron, which is basically, if you're on an airplane, the flaps. The Wright brothers invented something called wind warping, and then he came up with the ailerons. So that is still used on modern day aircraft. That was what a lot of the lawsuits were about. He also invented the precursor to the airboat. The precursor was worked on right here, supposedly for helping the Indians a bit. The Seminoles, he worked a lot with them. Something called an aero car that actually was quite expensive for the day. They manufactured those out of Detroit and Miami. He was involved in both. The higher end ones were done here in Miami. Carl Fisher, who, you know, was a developer in Miami Beach, bought a few of them. He loved them. And the idea of the aero car, it looked a little bit like an Airstream.
Right.
And they would take people around to, for sales, for development, those kinds of things. But, he had an 8th grade education, died at the age of 52, and had over 500 inventions and 400 patents in his lifetime.
Wow.
And some of them were kind of, far off, far-reaching, odd, maybe nothing came of them in a big way, but still, it just gives you an idea of,
what a prodigious man,
intelligence.
right?
Yeah, he was just brilliant.
Wow.
And from what I've read, he was a good person. He was serious. He tended to stay up late at night and tinker with things, or run out to his, when he was first starting out, run out to his shop and just making himself crazy trying to solve a problem.
Wow. What an incredible mind.
Yeah.
What drew Curtiss to South Florida?
Well, he loved to hunt, and there's some documentation in the late teens of him coming down here to hunt. It's in the paper, dogs, guns, the whole thing. And he met James Bright at that time. And, they co-founded Hialeah and Miami Springs together. Miami Springs at the time was Country Club Estates.
Right.
But they liked each other. It seemed like they just genuinely liked one another. And they liked hunting. And Bright had a fascination with aviation and donated some land to Glenn Curtiss's flying school here. But originally he was coming down too to train naval aviators. So there are a couple of factors going on there.
Okay.
And then Bright was a cattleman. He owned a lot of property out in what's Hialeah now. And together they formed Curtiss-Wright.
Okay.
And then that's when they started the development in the 1920s. So.
And when did he build the actual mansion that we're in right now?
25 they started building.
Wow.
Yeah. So it withstood the 26 hurricane.
Wow.
And this building has been through so many incarnations. I mean, I know you grew up nearby and went to Springs, as did I. And, so we've seen what it's gone through. But my parents, and I feel like a broken record because I tell everyone this that will listen, but my parents met here.
Wow.
My mom flew for Pan American. My dad bought and sold planes. My father actually lived on the grounds when he was traveling so much because there used to be, I don't know if you remember this, but there used to be some apartments right where the
like the
parking
villas?
lot is now.
Okay.
During the villas era,
Right.
when the hotel was out back, and so this was their hangout, And it was still the villas when I was a little girl, and we'd come here after church, sit in this very room, have breakfast, and
Wow.
I'd run around the grounds. There were still flamingos and swans.
Wow. I didn't know that there were actually flamingos on the property.
Oh, yeah. And he brought exotic birds, and they were obviously bigger then. And there are still plantings that supposedly Fairchild and he planted here together.
Wow.
The royal palms, I've been told, that they did together, some mango and papaya that are out there. And actually, I was speaking to someone at Fairchild that I believe is going to let me in to look at some archival information and find out exactly what's what. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
I'd like to
looking back.
label them, if that is true.
So now, obviously the mansion is looking gorgeous. It's after going the restoration, I remember I actually have some photos of so kind of almost looks like ruins from after some of the fires that had plagued. But obviously, there's been a tremendous restoration for the mansion.
A lot of dedicated people got together to make that happen. It took years.
Talk a little bit about what kind of functions. I know there's weddings, but there's all sorts of different functions. What kind of functions are you hosting here at the mansion?
Well, we definitely have to use it as a venue in order to sustain ourselves. And that's not unusual today. Vizcaya does it, Deering does it, everybody does it. Grants are limited since 9/11, so you have to be self-sustaining. So we do a lot of weddings, and it's important to the board, and it's my responsibility to make sure that the historical integrity doesn't fall by the wayside. So intermittently, we try to fill a lot of things for the community, some that are free, some that are not, but that bring in the arts, the history. We'd like to get some more exhibits coming through here. But we do a lot of events, from weddings to quinces to, I'd like to see more corporate business in here.
When they come in, what fascinates them when they first arrive at the property?
Well, we're a boutique venue. We're not a Sky or a Deering, but we have the unique look, much like they do. Different architecture, of course, but I think anyone that comes here is taken with that right off the bat. This is the kind of venue, if you want to call it a venue, that if you want something historic, you're going to love it. In that sense, it can sell itself. And I think, maybe that's not for everybody. Some people want the hotel with the ballroom and all of that, but you kind of know immediately when someone's really seriously interested, they want something like this as their special memory.
Gives you kind of a classic style. I mean, the bride's beautiful, the groom is in his tux. This gives a classic, timeless.
Right, and if that's what they're looking for, or something with a historical aspect, or something that perhaps is unique, because you don't see Pueblo revival too much in Miami. In Miami Springs, yes, but then they love it, and this is perfect for them.
Now, how are you reaching the brides-to-be to?
Well, for the weddings, they definitely tapped into the right advertising for weddings. Even before I came here, I cannot claim that. There are 3 advertisers in particular that are perfect for weddings, and we are advertising those 3 for sure.
Fantastic.
That alone really brings in quite a volume. What I would like to see more, just from a business standpoint, are more corporate jobs come through here. The weddings are wonderful, and they're time-consuming for our sales department, because you work with these people for a year, and it's their special day, and there's a lot that goes into that, and that's great. But we do have days during the week where we could be doing business luncheons and meetings, and I would like to see a little bit more of that.
Okay.
But we are advertising, and then just to finish with, I know you're interested in the weddings.
Right, but not all of it.
We've got that down. But when it comes to corporate business, that's been a little more challenging, and surprisingly so, as close as we are to the airport, but it has been challenging. And then when it comes to the right demographic for tourism or for historical tours, that's been something else to toy with. I mean, we've got a whole different area of advertising going on there.
Okay.
So I've worked with NPR, some community newspapers
Yes.
go all around town. It's really helping the Doral market right now. And then I have to say the Miami-Dade Public Library System has been fantastic. We partnered up with them for Curtis Explorers, our essay contest.
Right.
And they turned me on to the Museum Pass program. And for anyone watching, if you're not familiar with this and you have a family and you want to get your kids into museums and that kind of thing, it is a fantastic program. You check out a museum pass just like you would a book,
Right.
and you can bring a family of 4 to a museum. So we signed up for that just for our Saturday tours because that's what we're focused on with our docents.
Okay.
And they're coming, the kids are coming, and it's nice, and their families. So I'm
That's
thrilled about that. The first Saturday, we had more than 3 people. I had to go outside and compose myself. I thought I was going to start crying. I was so excited.
Oh, wow.
Because that's, it's tough. You can make it look easy, but it's not. You pray that they'll come and that you've got these docents trained and you're ready and they're standing here and you're like, please, somebody come to our door.
Right.
And they're coming.
Oh,
We're
that's
averaging like 15, 20 a week now.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah.
I know you also have an upcoming event for summer for kids called Camp Invention.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Camp Invention's fun. It's cute. They have it's several different age groups. It's for a week, and we use every room in the house.
Wow.
And they split them up, and so they don't get too bored in one area. The kids are so your child might start in this room, and then an hour later they may move to the dining room, and then an hour later the carriage room, and each room has a different instructor. They do something else. They invent, and that doesn't mean that if a child's not necessarily scientific, if they're artsy, if they like to create, there's something for everybody, and they have a ball. And the kids come in and they take over. But there's plenty of people involved. Carrie Martinez, she's local,
Yes.
educator. I don't know if you know Carrie, she's going to be the director this year.
Oh, wow.
And she's really excited about it. She's getting a good group of helpers. So this is the living room. And the focal point, of course, being the coral fireplace or oolite. Anywhere on the grounds that you see that, just know that it was from when they dredged the lake. So this is from the grounds. And this, in spite of the fires, this survived, as did the bricks. And the bricks are from a company called Warrior Brick Company out of Alabama. And supposedly they were made up of primarily freed slaves from the Civil War.
Wow.
And he used that company for a lot of the buildings down here, I understand.
It's just, so, just to recap, the stones that are here, not the bricks, but the actual the limestone,
Coral.
was the coral, was actually quarried from the pond outside.
Correct.
Wow.
And you see it in other parts of the grounds, the barbecue pit, out by the little pond and back. There's a bridge out there. Now, I'm not giving you the whole 1 hour historical tour.
No,
You have to come, Miami Springs. You have to come to the tour.
Fantastic.
But I'll give you a little taste.
It's a good little teaser.
Yeah. I mean, I remember this as a kid. I think they did a fantastic job. Obviously, there was electricity when this was built, but there wasn't air conditioning. And even the fixtures, a lot of old photos I've seen when his wife at least was living here still, they're very similar. They did a fantastic job. Other than having to change for code with the elevators and the restrooms and that kind of thing, you're seeing a really good representation of the original, which is why it's Smithsonian recognized.
It's so beautiful.
In the dining area with some awards.
So you have Florida Preservation Award, the Wedding Wire Couples Choice Award.
Yes.
That's huge.
We keep winning those too. A lot of couples' choice. And,
Best of Miami, best historic landmark.
Mhm.
That's huge.
Yep.
Considering, there's, like you said, there's Vizcaya, there's the Deering State, that's
Exactly.
a huge award.
Presentation Award, that's 2015, Dade Heritage Trust. Miami-Dade Historic Preservation Award, which I'm serving on now as well. I'm having the best time on that board. I love being a part of that and helping to try to save these buildings in the county, and hearing about archaeological digs that the public doesn't know about. That's always fun. I love that stuff. And full service kitchen, the caterers and floors come through here all the time.
Just plenty of facilities here for any outside caterer to come on in. Do you require certain types of caterers that are pre-authorized, or?
We have a preferred vendors list
Okay.
that we do prefer that clients work with, obviously. But we can make arrangements if they want to bring someone in, provided they have the right liability coverage and we approve them.
Perfect. Okay, so this is.
So we are a bit picky in that area.
Okay.
We want people that we know and that know how we like to operate here. This is the carriage room, and these, again, is a representation of what it looks like. These doors used to open out, they no longer open. I've heard that Henry Ford had 5 cars in here when Glenn Curtiss died. He'd asked him to work on his engines.
Wow.
I believe it to be true. Some of these stories get passed down generation to generation. He also worked on the precursor to the airboat in here.
That's a big deal to have Henry Ford have his cars with Curtiss.
Well, he had a Florida home also with Edison nearby in Fort Myers, which is also, if you're into history, that is a great museum to go to. The Ford Edison Museum in Fort Myers, I highly recommend it. And Ford actually came up to Hammondsport, New York, and approached Glenn Curtiss when he was going through his lawsuits with the Wright brothers, because they practically bankrupted Curtiss.
Wow.
And Ford didn't know him. They had never met before, but he went up there just to give him some free advice because, and I don't claim to know the story, the automotive story, but it sounds like he went through a very similar thing. Glenn Curtiss never paid a penny to the Wright brothers. Everything got settled by the government.
As I understand it today, there's the Curtiss
Right.
Well, that's the irony in all of it, is that eventually the two companies did merge. And they're still around today.
Yeah. Wow.
So, we use this primarily as a rain contingency plan. So this is, you know, you take off these fluorescents, bring in uplighting, and it's a beautiful room anyway, but you definitely bring in the uplighting and it just takes on a whole different vibe. Now, a lot of times the groom or groomsman will hang out in here beforehand. We have a bridal suite upstairs where she can be with her friends. And we had, last Christmas, we did the teddy bear tea in here. So this was Santa's home, and it was beautiful. And we're doing that again this year. So yeah, the Christmas event was fantastic. I was really pleased how that came out. That's a tradition we want to keep.
Wow.
Annually, and hope that people will look forward to it. And I'm hoping that people will really come out from the whole county. You know. Well, the teddy bear tea was fun, and we did, I believe we did 5 of them. I think we could easily do 2 more, maybe 4 a day. So over that weekend, and they were full. I mean, we maxed out in here, and we had to kind of like a semicircle with Mrs. Claus over there reading to the children, and then there were elves and other special guests. And it was fun. So it's a pretty stairwell.
Just beautiful.
This is kind of a nice shot. A lot of people enjoy this. You can see the old gateway. Lots of great photo ops for the special day. There used to be multiple rooms up here. I remember running down the hallway here as a kid. And then the master was more on that side.
And
Now we do mostly meetings up here,
Right.
or cocktail parties, that kind of thing. It's a good place before a wedding. One of the ads that we read about was that he and Bright were promoting an unexhaustible amount of water available. So that was really helping in the selling of land.
Just beautiful.
The Miami Springs Anchor Club helped us fix that up. It originally was a pond with the coral bridge over to the Olympic-sized pool. And until we can afford to bring it back to its original pondscape, Anchor came in and we're calling it a water illusion garden. So it has river rock and succulents and that kind of thing.
so there was an Olympic-sized pool out.
Yes, and then there's a barbecue pit out there with
Right.
a lot of coral.
Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
So, someone's watching this and they say, this sounds like an interesting place I want to be part of. Either maybe I want to have a wedding there, or maybe a quinces, or maybe that corporate event. What's the best way for them to reach you?
Well, they should deal with our event staff if they're interested in an event directly. Call the number or go to curtismansion.org. Our lead for events is our director of special events. Her name's Sherry. And then we have 2 other people that work with her, Javi and Irene. They're not hard to reach if you check the website or call the main number. If someone's more interested in being a docent or dealing with tours or anything else along those lines, then they should contact me directly.
Or maybe some secret about the mansion that folks really don't know about.
I don't think it's haunted. Is that what you're trying to ask me?
No, actually. No. But if it is, let me know sometime.
Well, okay, since I brought it up, I'm the biggest chicken in the world, and I only get very positive vibes here, so yeah, don't expect a haunted tour anytime soon, at least not while I'm here.
Perfect. Well, Melinda, I appreciate definitely giving us your time to the interview, and can't wait to come to an event here. I know the kids have enjoyed the camp convention, so
Yes, and we have a Shakespeare mini festival coming up in July. I'm not looking at my calendar, I believe it's 22nd, so we'll be getting some things out on that. We'd like to do some more music at the mansion and art things. So summer's a little quieter, you
Right.
know, as with anything else going on in South Florida, but you'll be hearing from us.
Perfect.
It'll get lively again soon, so.
Perfect. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right.